Hey there everyone, this is Alma coming to you from Long Beach, California. Today is Saturday, March 15th of the year 2020, and this is my 11th FlossTube. So welcome everybody to my channel. Welcome to Alma's Little Wonders. Thank you for all you returning viewers and subscribers. Thank you for your continuing support and for following me on my stitching journey. And if you're new, then welcome to the channel. I hope you like what you see, you find a reason to stay and subscribe and follow me on my journey. This week was a very busy week, so without further ado, let's get to stitching. Since I found myself with a little bit more free time, I started browsing the Facebook to see if there was anything else that grabbed my attention in terms of events that I could possibly join. And Zakia of Lady Wing Designs mentioned that there was this event going on this month to sort of tie into March Madness. So there was the stitching version of it is March Finishing Madness. The point was to try to finish as many things as you possibly can. And I found that the stitching group, Stitch Mania, does have an event similar to it in anticipation of the main Mania event coming up in a couple of months. So since the original purpose of Mania is to start as many projects, I think originally you're supposed to start 31 projects in every day, so one project for every day of May. Then it got cut down to 15 projects, but ultimately it's up to you. It's your Mania, whichever way you want to do it. But since the purpose is to start all the things in May, then you're using March Madness to try to finish as many things as possible. So I really liked the idea, and I thought, okay, that's something that I could get on board with. But I am going to put my own spin on it since I don't have that many projects that are close to being finished. I just thought, okay, I'll just work with my goals, work with other milestones that I have in other groups, and just leave it at that and finish those milestones as opposed to the entire piece. But I'm still, as ever, following my stitching. I'm just using the School of Magical Stitches and Literature and the Enchanted Stitching Facebook groups to kind of lead me as to where I'm going to focus my stitching. So for School of Magical Stitches and Literature, we're still on the Kingdom Keepers book number 2 this week. The first prompt we had to work on was to work on something that could be used as a spy. And as ever, you know, they do encourage you to kind of be creative and try to put your own spin on it, but I didn't have the energy to come up with something, so I just went for the penalty stitches on that. The regular stitch count is 300. For penalty, they increased it up to 450. So for that prompt, I just stitched on Hogwarts Castle to fulfill that task. Once more, this is a chart that I got from Stitching Girl on Etsy, but this is no longer listed, so this chart is no longer available. So for that piece, again, the stitch count the stitch count called for 450 stitches, but because of the goals that I have set for myself for the year, the stitch count per week is 500. So I did the 450 stitches that were necessary for the task, and then I just kept going and added 500 stitches, or 50 stitches to complete the 500. But then since last week I was not able to meet my goal for this week, I actually just kept going even further, and I ended up stitching a total of 871 stitches on Hogwarts Castle alone this week. I'm still just focusing on this bottom area right here, so that's why the stitches just go by so fast. It's because I'm literally just going up and down the columns, and it's all black. There's very little, there might be like a confetti stitch, like a different color stitch every now and then, but for the most part it is all black. And this actually when I finished the homework task, this actually led me to a park finish for the Full Coverage Fanatics Facebook group. They're doing a year-long event where we're traveling around the country and visiting each national park. For every park you have to do 4,000 stitches, and there's 25 parks that we're visiting this year. So if you do all parks, you will eventually stitch 100,000 stitches on your projects. So, and you can split those 4,000 stitches however way you want. I know that Jessie Marie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff, I think she's doing it all on just one single project. But I'm trying, because I do want to get some progress on my full coverage pieces. I am trying to spread out my my projects, or spread out the parks with all my projects. However, this is the second time that I have used Hogwarts for a park. So that being said, even though I said I wanted to try to like do a little bit of variety, this is the second time that I used Hogwarts. So yeah, it just, I don't know. It just depends on my mood, I suppose. I don't know. I do want to get things done on all of my projects, but we'll see. The second tasks that we had to do for School of Magical Stitches is we need to work on a piece that had something to do with an animal, because Maleficent uses animals to spy on her enemies. So we needed to work on something that had either hair, scales, or feathers. So for that piece, I picked up my Gold Collection Dimensions kit, stacked teacups, because it has a little bird on the corner. And with that piece, I actually did get plenty done, because for School of Magical Stitches, half stitches only count for half. So I ended up doing almost, I think I did like 550 half stitches, and then the rest I did start on the leaves that are going around the teacups. But yeah, this did go pretty fast, because it was just a lot of half stitches, which is nice, because in terms of like coverage and completion, like I'm almost at a quarter. This is pretty much the first quarter of the piece. So if and when I do start on the teacup, then that'll be the first quarter finished. So this, I do want to keep going on this. I do want to keep going on the background at least, so I can get a little bit more coverage done. The goal originally was to finish this piece altogether this year. So again, it might be possible. I think it is still a very plausible goal, just because again, most of it will be background. So at least that portion will go by quickly. But yeah, so that got technically like, 560 something, 500 or 600 600 stitches done in terms of the symbols on the chart. So because again, half stitches only count for half, so the stitch count for the task was 300, multiplied by 2 you get 600. The next task we had to do for School of Magical Stitches and Literature is to stitch on something that you would find under the sea. And for that one, I pulled up my Disney Villains project. This is a PDF chart that I found on Etsy. The Etsy shop name is Zana Cross Stitch. And I just said that, you know, you would definitely find Ursula living under the sea. So for that one, I do have a stitch count goal of 350 stitches a year, or a week, in order to meet my goal, which is to finish one panel. So this year the focus will just be on finishing the Evil Queen from Snow White. So once I completed the 300 stitches necessary for the task, I moved forward and I actually stitched a total of 391 stitches on this. So for this one, the last time you saw it, it was just all the white. So I did almost 400 stitches on the skin. So I usually, when I can, I try to work on the lightest colors first and then keep going towards the darker ones, again, if possible. So for this one, since I already had covered such a large area in white, finding the lighter skin tones was not that hard. I didn't really have to do that much counting. There were a couple of stitches over here, and there's actually a few on this area, but on this area, since I don't have that much stitches, I'm not going to be doing that because I wouldn't have anywhere to anchor the threads to. So go ahead and wait until I have more coverage in that area in order to do the tones, the skin tones in that section. But again, there's not that much because the main area for skin tones is the face. And as far as official tasks for Magical Stitches and Literature, those were the only ones this week. Again, because the stitch count was a little bit higher than usual. There was an additional bonus prompt that we needed to do, or that we could do. Not necessarily for stitch count, but if you did do the bonus, then you would get the equivalent of a task, so 300 stitches, or I think it was 300 stitches. Yes, you get the equivalent of a task's worth of stitches, 300, put towards a group event. Right now we're doing Discovery Island with Memorizers. So if you did do the bonus, then you 300 stitches would go towards the group event. And the bonus task was we needed to watch either Fantasia or Fantasia 2000 and try to tie one of our WIPs to one of the segments on either movie. And again, anything goes, really. There's a couple of underwater segments, so if you have a piece where that has the sea or takes place underwater, you could use that. Literally, you could do whatever you could. Oh, there's a lotus flower in this one segment. Great, my piece has a lotus flower. Again, just anything goes. It was one of those prompts where it's a lot simpler than it sounds, just because you could take anything and just go with it as long as you justified it. And again, it's not like the extra credit movie prompts where you have to stitch while you watch the movie. All you had to do is just take a picture of yourself, of your WIP, like against the screen when that segment popped up, so that you could justify your reasoning for using that WIP for the prompt. So for the bonus prompt, I used my Bilbo Baggins piece. This is a PDF chart made by Mandarin's Designs, and I tied this to the Firebird suite in Fantasia 2000, because I said that the rolling hills in the background reminded me of all the beautiful green scenery that the sprite creates at the end of the suite, right? So the suite has a theme of birth, death, and then rebirth, because the Firebird, which is a volcano, ends up destroying a lot of the landscape, and then the sprite recreates it. So I just went with that and took a picture of my WIP when you had like a shot of all the green hills. So of course I still stitched on Bilbo throughout the week. I ended up getting 578 stitches done on this piece. And the weekly stitch goal for this is 550. Last week I was unable to work on this, so the 550 or 578 just went towards last week, if that makes sense. So I still have to stitch this week's worth in order to be caught up with what I wish to get done on this piece. And the same thing goes for the villains piece. For the villains piece, I also, even though I did do 390, the weekly count for that is also 350, or it is 350, but I've only worked on it once. So I still need to do this week's 350. So I'll see. I'll figure out a way to get caught up with those two. The stitch count isn't that bad, so I'm sure I'll be able to get it done eventually. So that was it for magical stitches. I of course still went forward and did the Enchanted stitching challenges as well. So with Enchanted stitches, we're still doing Pirates of the Caribbean this month, so all of the tasks are related to that movie. The first prompt we had this week was to work on something that could be used to lure the doggy that is in the jail cells where Jack Sparrow is being kept. And of course this is also a nod to the famous scene in the ride of the prisoners trying to lure the doggy with the keys so they can get out of the jail cell. So for that prompt, I pulled up my Esmeralda piece, and how I tied it to the prompt is I figured that I would try to lure the doggy by playing with the tambourine. So I would play with the tambourine that would make, you know, very interesting noises and had like the shiny discs. So hopefully one or the other would attract the dog in order to get close enough for me to actually get the keys from him. And for this one, I ended up stitching a ton. I did a lot. I stitched over 700 stitches on this. The weekly goal is only 150. So I don't have to pick this up for the rest of the month, essentially. And the reason why I stitched so much on it is because I am, again, since I am trying to do the March Finishing Madness theme for this month, I wanted to get the 4,000 stitch milestone that I could use for another national park in Full Coverage Fanatics. So I was able to do that. I was able to go ahead and do hit that milestone. So I probably will pick, again, I love this piece too much. It really is one of my favorite pieces to work on. So even though I don't have to, I may pick it up during the month. I'm not going to tell myself to not to. But yeah, since I did do so many stitches this week, there wouldn't be a reason for me to do it. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. Again, the yearly goal is to hit 10,000 stitches, so I'm well on my way to meet that goal, because I'm just powering through it. I love it so much. The next prompt that we had for Enchanted Stitching Challenges was to, well, we were supposed to stitch on something that had to do with the color black. So for that I did use Hogwarts. So that's also why I stitched so many stitches this month, is because, well, I did want to meet the weekly goals, but I did use those stitches towards that goal. But we did do another task that has to do with something with a woman. And for that one, I decided, since I had already done so much on Esmeralda, I decided to go ahead and pull up my Wonder Woman piece. And these are both charts found on Tilton Crafts. I forgot to mention that. They are both Tilton Crafts charts based on Daniel Kordick's design. So that's why they're both a little bit similar, is because they're both by the same artist. And I actually did start them around the same time as well. I started them like a week after another. So for that one, again, for Enchanted Stitching, the stitch count for the tasks is just 250 stitches to get the most amount of points. So, but again, for me, usually, like, if the goals are higher, then I'll go ahead and stitch more. So for this one, I actually stitched 320 stitches. So similarly to Esmeralda, last week I also stitched around 300 stitches. This week I stitched 322 stitches. So the weekly goal is just 150. So for both of these pieces, I've already met my goal for the month. I don't have to pick them up again. Having said that, I do have a national park going for this piece as well. So I think I may still pick her up in order to get that park done. And I'm still very much in the background. I mentioned last week that I just had the black, the dark purple, and the dark brown. This week brought 3 additional shades of brown. So nothing too exciting. It's not, you can't even tell the difference between some of the shades. But there it is. I'm very much looking forward to getting out of the background, or at least this particular corner, because I do see that there's a lot of like this side right here has a lot of interesting things going on. It's just right now I'm still stuck on this section right here. So I look forward to not being in that area. But yes, I mentioned that I may still work on her throughout the month in order to get the national park finished. Another task we needed to get done for the extra credit, or not extra credit, Enchanted Stitching just calls it the monthly challenges, is we need to work on a piece that has a woman. Again, the way that they tied it, the weekly task this week is because Jack has a crew made up of all men except for one woman, Anna Maria. And the monthly challenge, I think, was just referring to the beginning where Mr. Gibbs mentions that it's unlucky to have a woman on board of a ship. But for both prompts, or well, no, for the monthly prompt, I'm using the Moon Charmer piece that I have. This is a Heaven and Earth Designs chart based on Amy Stewart's design. This is one of my loftier goals this year. The weekly stitch count that I gave myself was 650 stitches in order to meet my yearly goal, which is to hit 50,000 stitches. I don't know if that's going to happen this week. I was only able to work on it for the weekly task, so I just did 250 stitches, but that actually made me really happy because I'm finally done with this dark blue. All of this sky right here was just one color. It was DMC 798. I was so sick. I was so sick of that blue. I think that's also why I wasn't that enthused about this particular WIP. It's because I was just so done with it. But now I've moved on to a different color. So this week I took care of filling in some of the confetti that is for the color that I'm on now. I think it's 3838 or 3839, one or the other. But yeah, I do want to focus on this piece more since so far I've only been able to meet 1 week's requirement for the 650. So I really do have to get a move on this, so I can keep up with that goal. The monthly task calls for 2,000 stitches to be put in a piece, so that's also why I wanted to use this piece. I figured that would be a good motivation to keep stitching on this. But as far as weekly goals go, because I am like with Esmeralda and with Wonder Woman, like some of my WIPs, I'm just going above and beyond. One of the things that I am also doing for finishing Madness is for the WIPs that have like a smaller stitch count, I'd like to actually finish the goal, as opposed to just go by the weekly stitch count. I want to just go ahead and finish the goal. So a good example is a couple of the hay charts that I have. One is the sepia tone one, the mini one. That one, the goal is to hit 25,000 stitches, and I only have a little bit over 4,000 to go. So I just set that up because I realized that I had pretty much like a national park's worth of stitches to do. I thought, okay, I'm using this for a national park. And so the plan is to just go ahead and power through, and instead of just doing 100 stitches a week, try to finish the park as soon as possible, because I figured, you know, once I do meet the yearly goal, then I can focus on the other goals that are maybe loftier and harder to take care of. Another piece that's similar to that is the Tuscan Home piece. Again, it's another Heaven and Earth Designs chart. That one has 3,000 stitches to go. So again, it's less than a national park, so I can just go ahead and just power through. Instead of doing the 100 weekly stitches, just power through and try to get as much done as possible before June comes along, which is when I'm going to be starting several full coverage pieces. One thing I did forget to mention about the Moon Charmer piece is that is my next park to be finished. So even though I haven't done that much stitching on it, I only have a little under 1,000 stitches to go before I can finish the 4,000 milestone for another park. So again, that's one goal that I want to get done this week, is get 1,000 stitches done on the Moon Charmer, so I can finish the park and get caught up on the goals that I have for the weekly stitch counts. Another piece that I worked on this week is my leap day start. Give me 1 second so I can get the chart. Okay. So this is my newest start. This is Mystic Stitch incorporated chart called Change of Seasons 2. I started this with Zakia of Ladywing Designs. So we are both working on this. The initial goal is to try to finish by the next leap day. So we started on leap day. So we're going to try to finish in 4 years. And I say try because in order to meet that goal, we need to stitch like 920 some stitches per week. So who knows, we may just extend that to 8 years instead of 4. I, for one, didn't have that much issues with it. I was able to get 963 stitches done this week. I stitched on this while doing the watch party event in Enchanted Stitching. For a few bonus points, you can go ahead and watch the movie that we're focusing on that month. You get 4 points if you watch the film while stitching on something that is either Disney related or related to the movie itself. So anything has to do with pirates, gold, the sea, whatever. You get 3 points if you watch while you stitch on anything. And then you get, I think you get 2 points for just doing any crafting. So if you want to do knitting or crocheting while you watch the movie, I think you get 2 points. And then I think you can still get 1 point if you just watch the movie. And you just have to post like a starting picture and an ending picture of the beginning and the first and last shot of the movie. Typically for those, I do try to go for the Disney WIPs since I have so many. But for this one, since I did need to get a lot of stitches done, I just thought I'll just go ahead and use this because it's such a quick stitch. Like most of the stitches that I put in on this were were done while watching that movie. Because I'm just doing one color for now. So yeah, so far so good. I can't promise that I'll be able to keep that momentum up because it's a lot of stitches. And I also use this for an extra credit assignment on magical stitches, which was to work on something with a vine. So I just said, trees have vines, right? So there you go. Those are the trees. So 300 of those 900 and some stitches that I did went towards that extra credit task. With the movie, the watch party event, you don't have to count stitches, which is good. I mean, but Pattern Keeper does that for me already. But yeah, for those events, you don't necessarily have to worry about stitch count as long as you just watch the movie. I also worked on, of course, one of the main goals this year is to finish my Peter Pan Thomas Kincaid kit that I've had since June of 2013. So of course I did put in some stitches towards that. And for that one, I did the same thing as with Hogwarts. Since I wasn't able to meet the goal, the weekly goal for last week, I doubled up. I doubled up on the stitch count so I could meet both last week's and this week's. So this is the final product image. Again, this is the NCG Textiles kit based on Thomas Kincaid's artwork. These are out of print. They don't make them anymore. Whatever's out there is whatever's left. And I used everything that came with the kit. I used the Ada that came with the kit and the floss that came with the kit as well. And once I tallied up all the stitches that I did, the grand total came out to be 820 stitches done on this piece alone. So for this piece, I also used it for one of the national parks in Full Coverage Fanatics, and those 820 stitches did bring me to a park finish. The focus this week became on the bottom section down here, which is the bridge. So I wanted to go ahead and try to get this done, since it was the dividing line. Like half of the bridge was the previous page and then half of it was this new page. And it low-key, I regret not doing all of it at once, because I feel like like right here, for example, you can tell like these are the old stitches. They're all fluffed up, and I don't know if it's because they've been there for a while, but you can tell the new stitches right next to it are just thinner. Hopefully that'll not, I don't know, I hope that they fluff up too. Just because I can tell, and it bothers me. But the goal is to get this entire bottom row done, which is why I have it gridded. So I just want to finish the bottom, and then I'll go ahead and keep going with the top as well. And I'm excited because there was this section right here on the top that has like these really nice teals, light blues and light purples. That actually does go, it continues down here. So I'm excited to work on that area because I really did like those colors. But yeah, again, that's another check mark for the finishing madness. I've managed to do another one of the national parks finished. So that's 5. So normally each tier is 5 parks, but just because of the way that I started some of those parks, I actually haven't finished the first tier yet. For the first tier, I still have to do the Bilbo park and the Wonder Woman park. But once I finish those, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure once I finish those 2, then I'll be done with the first tier and I can be officially on the second tier. And last but certainly not least, The first the first part that I finished was for this project right here. This is another one of the tilted crutch patterns based on Daniel Cordick's design. This is Snow Girl. This is my focus for another full coverage Fanatics event named 20 in 20. So the goal is to stitch 20,000 stitches in the year 2020. For this one, the weekly stitch count is 350. This week I managed to do 481 stitches. And literally the only reason why I stitched so much is because I am using it for one of the ultimate stitching challenges sections for magical stitches, which go by 500 stitch increments. So even though the stitch goal is only 350, more often than not, I try to strive for that 500 stitch mark. But that actually brought me to the end of the border. So I'll see if I can get that showing up on screen. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. This entire column right here is white on white border that goes all the way around the entirety of the piece. So that's all the bottom, and then trying to maneuver here. Yeah, it goes all the way around to the end of the piece. I don't know if I showed that right. Point being is I finished it. Yay! I was finally able to finish the border, and I can now continue to work on this top corner. So again, finishing madness. That's another milestone that I wanted to hit this month, is just get the border done with, so I can actually move forward with the main objects of the piece. So the first thing that's going to be showing up is the branch right here, the branch and the apple. So that's very exciting, because again, I was working on all white for forever and ever on this piece. So yeah, so for this week, that's pretty much all I got done, which was a lot. The plan for this week is to start working on Moon Charmer, so I can get the national park finished for that piece. And I also want to work on one of my Heaven and Earth Designs chart, June. There's an extra or a monthly assignment with Enchanted Stitching, which is to work on a project that starts with the letters for Captain Jack Sparrow's initials, so C, J, and S, and it's a 3-part assignment. I did C with Change of Seasons last week, so this week I'd like to do the J with June. And then for S, I think I will go ahead and use Snow Girl as well, so I can get those stitch counts done for this week. And then yeah, we'll see where the week takes me. They haven't, it's just Saturday afternoon, so the homework assignments don't generally start coming out until Saturday evening for magical stitches, and Enchanted Stitching, sometimes they don't even announce it until Monday morning. So until then, I'll just work on whatever my heart desires. There's plenty to choose from, and there's still a lot of activities that I can do. Again, we've got the monthly and the extra credit assignments, so there's still a lot to keep me busy. So that is it for me. I hope that you guys have a very restful for a week. I hope you guys keep safe and stay safe. It's a madness out there. We tried. we went to Target yesterday, and the madness is real here in Long Beach. We tried hitting 2 different Targets, none of which had toilet paper. All the flushable wipes and the disinfectants, everything is gone. Like, I had to, I took a video. Like, I took a video and I sent it to my mom. Like, I couldn't believe it. Just aisle after aisle of just nothing whatsoever in stock. And same thing with the toilet paper. Like, and we found this one lady that was on the same mission as us, because we're not planning on hoarding the toilet paper. We're just legitimately running low on toilet paper, and we need a few rolls. But again, we're not trying to buy 72 toilet paper rolls. We just want like 4 or 6 just to last us for, a month or 6 weeks. Nothing whatsoever. So we still have to figure out. I think my boyfriend ended up asking around to see if there was anyone that could spare a roll or 2. So thank goodness for family and friends. But yeah, it's crazy. Disneyland closed. I don't know if you guys heard. You probably did, because it's all over the news. It's historic. Disneyland has closed for 2 weeks until the end of the month, and that may be extended or not. So that was another thing, is I got an email saying that for that period, our expiration date for the annual pass holders are going to be extended according to whatever period they're going to be closed for. So right now it's 2 weeks. So our pass, from what I understand, the passes the expiration dates will be extended 2 weeks. So, but they're not actually going to, they won't make it official until they know for sure for how long they're going to be closed for, I think. I don't know. Again, it's everything's so up in the air that it's just ridiculous. So please stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and just take it one day at a time, and enjoy this this time, I suppose, that we have to be able to stitch to our heart's content. So until I see you next time, happy stitching, guys. Take care.